Hey, this is Steve Gibbons. We are coming up live here in a few. We had a little technical difficulty to get started, so bear with me in a minute, and I'll be back with Reverend Sally Weaver in just a minute. So just stick with us. Okay. Well, welcome. My name is Steve Gibbons. I'm the executive director of the Bridges Foundation in St. Louis. We offer a 9-month experience of the spiritual exercises of St. Ignatius Loyola in everyday life. This is a program that starts in September of every year and goes through May. And today I'm just waiting for her to join us, but we'll be joined by one of our recent retreatants from a couple years ago, Reverend Sally Weaver. So we're just waiting for her to join. Hold on, we keep having technical problems here. Let's see here. There she is. Well, how are you?
Hi, Steve. Sorry
Yeah.
about that.
Oh no, not your problem. So it looks like we are up and running, and we are live on Facebook, and we're only a couple minutes late. So I'm glad for those people who stuck around. So I did my little intro already and told people about a little bit about Bridges and who we are and what we do. So I want to take just a minute to give you a really brief introduction to Reverend Sally Weaver, and then we're going to have her talk a little bit more about herself. So Sally is a native St. Louisan. She is a lifelong Episcopalian. She did her college work here in St. Louis. She got a BA in English literature. I'm another English major. We do find something to do with our lives with our English degrees. That's good. And also a Master of Liberal Arts, both from Washington University. So, and then she went on later to attend Eden Seminary in Webster Groves, which is just a suburb of St. Louis, for those of you who don't know that, where she earned her Master of Divinity degree, and she was ordained to the priesthood that same year in 2005. So she has served 9 different Episcopal churches in the greater St. Louis area since then, in the capacity of vicar and priest in charge, and as a professionally trained interim. So she's the one who steps in to help those churches as they're making transitions in pastors. She lives just out of St. Louis, outside of St. Louis in Eureka, with her husband Tony and 2 dogs. And we're talking to her today from her home in Eureka. How are you today, Sally?
I'm great. Thank you, Steve. How are you?
Good, good. Well, let's start with just a little bit of your story. Tell us a little bit about your own, just your upbringing and your own kind of uh, family of faith and faith journey. Um, and I know your journey to priesthood, and then beyond that to engagement with Bridges in the spiritual exercises is a long and winding road. But give us a little idea of what that journey's been like.
Okay, sure. So my family, I have one brother and one sister. So the 5 of us I grew up in Webster Groves, and my family we were always churchgoers, and more than that, we were a family that engaged in conversation about God and Jesus and faith. And my parents encouraged questions and challenges. So my father was really had sort of a mystic um,
Hmm.
personality, if you will. I mean, he loved music and art and worship. He had a sort of a mystic soul, and my mother was much more more practical person. So she engaged in helping with the finances and the polity of the church, but they were both very much engaged. And my brother became an Episcopal priest, so 2 of the 3 of us are Episcopal priests. My sister is a therapist, so she went into a caring profession and became a Unitarian Universalist and raised her family in that faith. So that's sort of my background. I became interested in the spiritual exercises, Ignatian spirituality, really seriously in 2001. I started seminary then. I'm a second career priest, obviously. And my spiritual advisor is a big devotee of Ignatian spirituality. So he had me do Lectio Divina and in reading scripture, tried to put myself in the frame, in the story, and figure out how was I participate, what kind of participant was I, and what was God telling me through that. So I've been doing that work for over 20 years, I guess. And then I changed to a different spiritual director because my first one and I actually ended up working together. And my current spiritual director had gone through the Bridges program and thought it was an excellent program and told me about it. So finally, in 2020, I enrolled in the 9-month retreat in daily life program.
And the Bridges retreat has been around in the St. Louis area for more than 35 years now. And, while it's always been open to Christians of any denomination, it certainly comes out of that Jesuit, that Catholic tradition. And a lot of the people who have gone through the program come from that tradition in some ways. But we do see a growing number of people who are non-Catholic Christians who find this very helpful in their spiritual lives. And not all that foreign, even if they didn't spend a lot of time in a Catholic church. So can you just talk a little bit about your experience as a non-Catholic Christian doing this program, what it was like? Were there any kind of hiccups? Just how you approached it.
Sure. So just a little background. The Episcopal Church is obviously not Roman Catholic, but many Episcopalians balk at being called Protestants because we consider ourselves, refer to ourselves as the via media, the middle way, sort of straddling between Roman Catholicism and Protestantism, because we are a liturgical church, a sacramental church. We are practitioners of spiritual disciplines. So all of that we have in common with the Roman Catholic Church. In fact, many people who are Roman Catholic, who come to a worship service like a funeral in the Episcopal Church say, "Oh, it's so familiar." So there are similarities. Obviously, our polity is very different, and some of our theology is more Protestant. So I just kind of wanted to say that I think for Episcopalians, it's not a big stretch to go to a Roman Catholic curriculum like this one was. The one thing that I did find a little different was in the curriculum, we were asked to pray to Mary and then have Mary intercede on our behalf to Jesus. And we were asked to pray to Jesus and have Jesus intercede on our behalf to the God the Father, Almighty God. And that is not something that Protestants or Episcopalians are used to. I had no problem praying to Mary, although, again, most Protestants are not big prayers to the Virgin Mary. I had no problem with that at all. But I wanted to talk to her, and I wanted to talk to Jesus, so I prayed to Jesus, and I wanted to talk to God, so I prayed to God. So that was the only piece of the curriculum that I thought, wait, what?
Yeah, right.
And again, I can tell you that and I think you're going to ask me about this. We have a prayer companion as part of this who meets with us every week. Those who are the retreatants who go through this program. And my prayer companion, who is a deacon in the Roman Catholic Church, was fantastic, is fantastic. He was so helpful and completely non-judgmental, listened to me. And we worked together on like this little bump in the road. How do I address that, or how do I work with that? And I would say in journaling and going through the curriculum, I would come up with things that, I would just tell him. One of the things I said to him was, well, do you think Jesus ever apologized? Do you think he ever decided, oh, that was a mistake and I need to make amends? And he would never, his reaction was always to be thoughtful and listen and engage with me. So the prayer companion piece is just tremendous. It's really a gift of this program.
I would say that what you said and the kind of questions that you are asking and the kind of bumps in the road are the same really kind of bumps in the road that anybody entering into these exercises might have. Because just as no Episcopalian is the same as the other Episcopalian sitting next to you, no Catholic, no Methodist, no Presbyterian, we're all products of those traditions, and yet we all come to meet God and to meet Jesus in our own way with our own histories. And I do think that's the beauty of these exercises, which, they come from this 500-year-old tradition of St. Ignatius of Loyola, and yet they seem so very alive and contemporary. What was your experience of that, of finding in these kind of these ancient writings, so to speak, a very contemporary and modern feel?
Oh, absolutely, Steve. And again, that's not foreign to to our faith tradition. I mean, we say a prayer every Sunday for our principal service of worship that was written in 800, and it's still very much something that speaks to us. So, but you're right that there's such great wisdom and the ability to connect with our current experience in going through these exercises. Of course, the examine, the sort of review of your day at the end of the day, I just find it's so incredibly helpful. And we see it reflected in modern things like the 12 steps. The step 10 continued to take personal inventory, and when we were wrong, properly admitted it. That's kind of what you do with the examine.
And the popularity of things like gratitude journals, right? I mean, everybody, there's a lot of talk on social media and websites and the regular media about, the importance of being grateful, that it makes us better, happier, more balanced people. And that, St. Ignatius didn't create the idea of gratitude by any means. He was just pulling on some of these ideas that he knew are good for us, right? And so and putting them together in such a way that they can be walked through as a program. And for those of you who are maybe new to this, the original exercises were written as what we call a 30-day retreat, where you would go away for 30 days and you would work your way through all these exercises, largely based on praying with scripture. But Ignatius, again, 500 years ago, knew that not everybody can go away for 30 days. We have responsibilities, we have jobs, we have families. So in one of his annotations to these exercises, he basically wrote, you should be able to take these exercises and divide them out, spread them out over a longer period of time, and do all of the same exercises, go through all the same prayers. And that's what he has done, and that's what Bridges and other organizations like Bridges throughout the world have done with these exercises, really, especially since the latter part of the 20th century. Although it was alive before then, but it's become much more popular for lay people and people of different faiths to participate in this. So some people might look at you and say, well, you're an Episcopal priest. You have a degree in divinity. You have experience leading at all these different churches. Why, at this point in your life, a couple of years ago, did you think that this was something that you wanted to do and that you would somehow benefit from?
Well, I would hope that all of us are always open and searching for deeper connection with the divine, with God, and leaning into Jesus's command to love God, love ourselves, and love each other. And I think it's easy for us to get, or at least for me, to get sort of routinized in my prayer life. And this was a way of shaking it up, of delving deeper, of doing something different. And it was a huge commitment to say, I'm going to pray for an hour, and I'm going to participate with a prayer companion once a week, and be honest about what I'm discovering and feeling. So it was a wonderful experience. I mean, I would recommend it to any and everyone that is interested in digging deeper.
Yeah. And it's you and I were talking earlier, it's interesting and not at all surprising that Ignatius refers to these as exercises, right? Because they really are, as you were saying, they're about building kind of some spiritual muscle in our lives, right? Because we can all get a little lazy, and we can all lean back on those things that maybe we've been doing since childhood, which is not a bad thing. But if we don't keep exercising, we can grow a little lax, right? Tell me a little bit about that experience for you.
Yeah, absolutely. Yes, when you and I were talking about this, I saw it as building spiritual muscle, particularly when life gets lifey, and where there are life challenges, whatever that could be. Having real deep spiritual muscle, I think, is just it's so much easier to face things, and to like you said, to be grateful in the midst of what can be very difficult circumstances, to see God where God is in other people, in the help that we're getting from people we know and people we don't know, rather than focusing on what we consider to be the bad things that are happening. So I think it's real important that we constantly work on our spiritual muscles, because we are going to be confronted with heavy lifting.
Yeah. And the older we get, sometimes it's, we're either dealing with our own issues, or the issues of our spouses, or our aging parents, or depending on where we are, and our children. I mean, there's all these different things that we know are going to happen. And I guess my own experience of this approach to our Christian spirituality is that it's immensely practical for the here and now, right?
Yes, absolutely. Yes, the things that we discussed and read and prayed about in for the spiritual exercises for this program had immediate impact and application to everyday life. Yeah. Absolutely. Yeah.
And you mentioned it a little bit in passing, but there is like an athlete, right? There is a discipline to this, and an accountability. Like an athlete has to have their own discipline, but then they're accountable to their teammates. They're accountable to their coach. for getting that done. And in these exercises, there is this discipline of as you enter into this, you're committing to kind of an hour of prayer each day, and we guide you through that. We're not just saying go do whatever you want to do. We're kind of guiding you into how you spend that time each day. So there's that discipline. Then there's the discipline of that weekly, usually a weekly meeting with your prayer companion and with a small group of others who are doing it. So you have a little bit of community too. And those things taken together, they do create that sense of discipline, of accountability, that I'm not doing this alone, that I'm doing it in the context of not only my own personal spiritual life, but the larger life of the church, writ large. What do you think have been the fruits of your experience now that you've been out of the program for a couple of years? What do you think you took from it, and what have been the fruits of participating in this for you?
Oh boy. Well, the sort of review, daily review is still something that I try to do every day. I can tell you that it reinforced for me the need for accountability, structure, discipline. I mean, we all know that, right? But the program is designed in such a way, as you just said, that if you don't do the work, you're going to show up for your your prayer companion meeting not having done the work. I mean, it's going to be real obvious. And as you mentioned, the group, you're accountable to them too, I think, to come prepared. So reminding myself of that, structuring my life in such a way that I am creating those accountabilities and disciplines, so that I am not so easily able to say to myself, oh, well, it doesn't matter. I'll do it tomorrow, or I don't need to do it today, or whatever. It's been a gift of the Bridges program.
It's, I know my wife and I, we did this together 10 years ago. We did the exercises together. And we always joke that the night before we started, we looked at each other and said, what are we getting into? And how are we possibly going to do that every day, to give that hour of prayer and to go to these meetings every week? And not that we're taking attendance and you don't fail the course, and but to get the most out of it, as you said, you need to put in that time. As I often say to people who kind of look at me like I'm crazy when I say pray for an hour, a lot of that time is just giving yourself the time to be quiet and to be still and to see how God might be speaking and moving in your life. And when we only pray for 5 minutes here, 5 minutes there, we don't settle down enough to find that, right? And so that hour of prayer is really a time of stillness and allowing God some space in our lives. And you don't have to be doing anything for an hour in order to pray for an hour. Sometimes it's just being there, showing up, like a lot of things in life, right? We show up. We have a few more minutes and we'll probably be wrapping this up. I see we had a couple of viewers on Facebook, and there's one there right now. If anybody has a question they'd like to ask before we wrap things up, you can do that by just putting it right there in the chat function on Facebook, the comment function. But while we're waiting for that to see if there are any questions, and you kind of touched on this before, but I'll let you say it one more time. If someone that you know or someone that you don't know is discerning, they're saying to themselves, well, this seems like it could be interesting, and I think I could make that commitment, but they're still holding back a little bit. what would you say?
I would say take the leap of faith.
Yeah.
Do it. That we make time for what is important in our lives. I mean,
Yeah.
where your heart is, there your treasure will be also.
That's right.
And so if someone's heart is saying to them, I want to do this, but I don't know if I can commit, I would say, yes, you can. If you want to do this, you will find, like you and your wife did, like I did, you will find the time, you will find the energy, and it pays off. The dividends are enormous. I mean, it's just so worth it.
Yeah.
In fact, I mean, I'm now working again after having officially retired. And I'm looking forward to, at some point, taking more of the bridges or doing it again courses, because I want to do more. I want to do.
Yeah.
It's so worth it.
Yeah, it's that we have that 9-month retreat, and that's how you enter into the community, so to speak. But we have people who have been involved with us. They don't necessarily do the retreat over and over, but they have been involved for 20, 30 years now, because they find community, they find the continued education, the continued formation in this kind of spirituality to be very life-giving, and a wonderful group of people. So, well, thank you for joining us today, and we'll be posting this complete video both on Facebook and on the Bridges website and within a day or two. And so those of you who are watching this later and don't have the opportunity to ask a question, please feel free to reach out directly to me. I'm Steve Givens. I'm at executive.director@bridgesfoundation.org. I'm happy to talk to you about this retreat. I encourage you all to go to our website and check out the resources that are there about our upcoming retreat. And just let me know if you have any questions. Sally Weaver, thank you very much. It's always good to spend time with you.
Thank you, Steve.
We'll see you soon, I very hope, and we'll see everybody else as our day and our year continues.
Okay, thank you so much.
We'll
God
see
bless.
you all. Bye.
Bye.